is still a universal human characteristic? Because there are many people that go through their lives without practicing any kind of religion.
No, there aren't. They just think that. How many vegans do you know? You know, they're clueless religious, because what they have is ritual without philosophy, fundamentally.
I really believe that diet is the primary way
that we need to change things.
People thought that I was going to be the first tennis pro or the first African American, but I'm actually the first vegan to be president of the American College of Cardiology. There really is a relationship between diet. Everyone knows it. The question is, what are you going to do about it? And how far are you personally willing to go?
Because what they have is ritual without philosophy, fundamentally. So what's happened in many cases is that as the sophisticated religions, so to speak, have collapsed, what emerges from their ashes are rituals. And rituals are sort of the ground out of which a religion emerges. Vegans, vegetarians, environmentalists, anybody who's an ideologue.
If you donate $100, I'll make an exclusive video just for you where I'll threaten anyone you want with a vegetable of your choice. So if you want me to make a video threatening your mom with an avocado, then I'll make a video threatening your mom with an avocado. And I'll just post it unlisted on my channel and send it directly to you. If you're into that sort of thing, then yeah.
You know, and the reason that I would consider those in the religious domain is because they're systems of value, and they're predicated on fundamental assumptions that you have to take on faith.
More than a year ago, one of my fellow vegans asked me a question about how we as vegans were being portrayed, received, and perceived in mainstream movies, mainstream TV shows, etc. And at that time, my feeling really was, look, as a movement and just as a minority within the modern Western world, we're going through a period of time where most of the attention we get from the mainstream is mockery. Most of the attention we get from the establishment, including university professors and lecture halls like this one, most of the attention we get is mockery. And yet that mockery still is in its way an important form of representation and shows the extent to which we are climbing up the ladder of public awareness as a pressing issue to be addressed, even if it's an issue to be addressed by 1 or 2% of the population. There was a time when the public was really eagerly receiving each and every depiction of homosexuality in mainstream cinema. There was a TV show called Soap. It was both a soap opera and a parody of soap operas, and it was in large part responsible for launching the career of Billy Crystal, who's now a very famous comedian. And that TV show simply had a gay character. And at that time, it was a cause for celebration, even though that character, was a comedy. The character was in many ways making a mockery of gay people in general, or of a stereotypical gay character, in many ways. But still, at that stage, there were so few films and so few mainstream TV shows recognizing that gay people exist, just that they exist at all, that it was really received as an important step in the right direction. Just that recognition, even if the form of recognition is mockery. So guys, as vapid and vacuous and foolish and pointless as this little monologue from Professor Jordan Peterson may be, I'd encourage you to see it in that light. It's significant in its way that in these examples he's throwing out with very little thought and certainly zero research. He throws out the name of veganism. A few minutes later, he's talking about Buddhism just as casually. I'm absolutely convinced he has never done any meaningful research on veganism or Buddhism. And believe me, I'm aware I mispronounce a few words here and there, but his pronunciation of veganism alone stands out as a little bit of a hint.
How many vegans do you know?
As to how rarely he says the word, or how rarely he hears it spoken by others, and so on.
How many vegans do you know?
It's easy, It's cheap and it's easy to do what he does here with the name of veganism. It's easy to try to get a few laughs out of your audience by pointing the finger at vegans. And I think there was a time when hostility against homosexuals was so high that it was easy for university professors to point the finger and laugh and get the same kind of laugh out of ridiculing homosexuals or those who defended them or what have you. Now, the specific argument that he's offering here, it's surreal even to summarize it. But what he tries to construe is the view that all human beings are religious, that religion is universal. That's the question that's put to him, is of that nature. And that vegans are an example of people who are all the more religious and all the more deluded because we're unaware of the extent to which we're true believers. We're true believers in a system of values. Look, guys, I am a vegan and I openly identify as a nihilist. I reject belief itself. The only thing I believe is that there is nothing to be believed in. There are certainly many prominent vegans who reject the ethical arguments for veganism, who describe themselves in purely scientific terms, in purely dietary terms. Some of them are doing it just for the sake of vanity, just to be thin and beautiful. Some just for the sake of, the health of their heart, of their brain, to avoid getting cancer, so on and so forth. But what Peterson's unaware of, because he takes no interest, he speaks out of sheer ignorance, is the extent to which veganism really is one praxis, not just one diet, but quite a complex political praxis with many different competing ideologies attached to it. And each of those ideologies really does compete with the others. We have a fantastic array of debates everywhere, from YouTube to the formal peer-reviewed academic literature on veganism. And frankly, those are debates that someone like Jordan Peterson probably would respect if you took a look at them. Probably if you looked at the difference between the abolitionist approach and the citizenship approach. Probably if you looked at the debates on philosophy as well as principle and praxis between Gary Francione and Direct Action Everywhere. Probably if he looked at a synopsis of any of the major debates about vegan ethics and vegan politics, he would have to eat his words here when he claims, incoherently enough, that veganism is nothing but ritual, lacking any philosophy. On the contrary, what you find soon enough is that maybe we have too much philosophy for a very simple praxis. Now, I think those debates we're having in veganism are really worthwhile, and I'm really glad that we're having them now, at the start of the movement, when everything is still in its nascent stages. I've seen so much change and progress just in the last couple of years. I think when I first got involved with veganism, it seemed like the consensus view in veganism was the following line of reasoning that I do reject, although not because it's superstitious and not because it's religious. Dogs are cute. Human beings should naturally love and domesticate and take care of dogs. Point 2, pigs and baby chickens are also cute. It's really just baby pigs they show you. They don't show you adult wild boars in those arguments for some reason. Therefore, humans should have the same feeling towards the same master to domesticated pet relationship towards those animals also. In effect, the whole world should be turned into a petting zoo, and that cows and pigs, their rightful place in a human-controlled world, is on the carpet next to dogs and cats. Now, I actually find that a deeply flawed argument, philosophically, ethically, and politically, in terms of praxis, in terms of pragmatics, his favorite word, in terms of pragmatism. I would say that much more rarely you encounter people who come out of a self-aware, conscious, religious background who argue that each animal has a soul and where they believe in some kind of cosmology in which animals have souls, and their moral actions and choices are dictated by this. This whole range, though, that, fairly enough, Peterson here makes mock of. He's making a mockery of veganism for the purposes of advancing his own argument. I think the truth is that someone like Peterson, if he would just take a look, he would actually find a whole lot to respect there. I do not know him well enough to say whether his respect would more be attached to someone like respectable career cardiologist oncologists, experts in heart surgery, cancer, etc., or if you would gravitate more towards some of the political radicals, some of the ethical philosophers, some of the people who obsessively hash out the details of the morality of when we can and cannot justify using a medicine that is ultimately extracted from an animal's body, or where the research to discover that medicine relied on torturing animals to death in laboratories. Those are ethical and philosophical issues that vegans, I think we could say universally, at least take seriously, even though there is this tremendous intellectual diversity within veganism, tremendous ideological diversity, tremendous political diversity. Guys, if I had a choice to either be part of a philosophy that had no praxis, a philosophy that you had no way to implement in the real world, or to be part of a praxis that had no philosophy, you know which one I would choose. Vegans know the change they want to make in the world. They know how they want to accomplish it, for the most part. They know the goals they're working towards. And then there's this tremendous, lively intellectual discourse about the meaning of that praxis, about the meaning of the struggle, even though we're all engaged in the struggle already, whether we conceptualize it in terms of the supernatural, the soul, or we conceptualize it in terms of a complex moral system of opposing speciesism, the abolitionist approach, the citizenship approach, so many different paradigms, right? I would certainly much rather be part of a working and thriving political praxis that's still in search of an ideology, that has many competing ideologies and many worthwhile philosophical debates, rather than be in an academic scenario we have a philosophical debate with no praxis, with no chance of really changing the world. And as I say, with confidence, even someone like Jordan Peterson, who here is just speaking out of ignorance, he's just mocking us, but he's mocking us out of ignorance. I'm 100% confident that if he takes the time to open that door and take a look at what's going on within veganism, he will find something to respect about that struggle, something to respect in those debates, even though I don't know which side of the debate he would respect.
À-bas-le-ciel.